So up to this point, we've been passing data into our templates, but we could also pass functions into our templates. And then we could use those functions in our templates to do processing on the data that is there in our templates. So some people think this is a violation of separation of concerns, and they think that you need to adhere more strictly to the MVC sort of model, where you have your view, which is shown to the user, and you have your model, which is the data, and you have your controller connecting the two, and the controller is where you have all of your processing and your logic, and that you shouldn't have processing in the view. Generally speaking, good idea. Separation of concerns, good idea. I really wouldn't recommend using a function in a template that connects to the database and changes the data. I don't think that would be a good idea. But I do think it's fine to pass functions in to modify the data, because a lot of the data that you're going to pass in could be pretty raw. And so you could do the modification of the data right there in the template, or the accessing of the data right there in the template. So let's just access a certain index position in that slice, right? There's a predefined global function which you can use to do that. So you can pass in your own functions, or there's predefined global functions already available for you to use inside your templates, which give you a little bit more power and functionality for what you do with the data when it gets to your template. So enough talk. Let me just show you an example of what this looks like in action. And then after we do that, we're going to look at the documentation to see, right, like how is that working? Can we understand the documentation? And I'll explain some nuances, because this is really one of the areas that loses a lot of people when they try to learn web programming with Go on their own. And I'll show you where they get stuck. All right, so to pass functions into our template, we need to have some data structure that aggregates together the functions we want to pass in. And that data structure is a map. And in fact, there is a special type in the text template package. And that special type is called a func map. And that func map, whoops, I just hit that button. That func map is right here, type func map, and it's a map that takes a string for a key and empty interface for a value. Empty interface is an interface with no methods, and every type has at least no methods. So every type implements the empty interface. So we're going to pass in a key here, and then we're going to pass in a function here. And functions are whatever first-class citizens in Go. You could use them. They're a type, just like anything else. Right, so passing in a function right there. So we use template func map, and this is a composite literal. And there's our composite literal. It starts out with the type, and then we have the curly braces, and then we just give it values, right, for whatever data structure or whatever type we're working with. And so here, the key is a string, and then the value is going to be a function. So I'm going to have this key for this function. This is the toUpper function, which is from the strings package. So I'm just assigning this to a key, and then I'm going to have that available inside my template to be able to change text to make it all uppercase. Here I've got a function I created myself, which is going to give me the first three letters of any string, right? So we got some slicing going on. Give me the first three letters of any string. I know I could just return right here, but I thought this was a little bit more readable for people if I just had it that way. I have all kinds of updates because I just restarted my computer. So first three, that function is assigned to FT. How do we use that in our template? Uppercase, name. First three of name. And so when we run this, and I am in, let me bring this down, change 008, 01, go, run, main.go. So there we have Buddha, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, all uppercase, and we got Bud, Gan, Mar, which are the nicknames that I call those boys by. So that's using a function in a template. So the next thing, maybe you've got enough and you understand it, but the next thing is I want to just explain the nuances of how this works. And this really demonstrates to me how Go suffers no fools. It's like dead men tell no tells. Go suffers no fools. Because you have to know what you're doing. And even if you know what you're doing, then, sometimes you need somebody to explain it to you because you're like, what the heck is going on here? So let me just walk you through it. So we have type template, and we have all these first 4 functions of text template, and they all give us back a pointer to a template at least. Some of them also give us back an error. Well, when we have a pointer to a template, we then have all of these methods. And so one of the methods with a pointer to a template is funcs. And funcs takes a value of type func map. Listen to how I said that. A value of type func map. All right. So some people look at this and they think, this is insane. Or I don't know what the heck. Funcs, func map. This is crazy. I can't do this programming stuff. Some people look at that but this is just an identifier. This could be Winnie the Pooh or whatever you want to call it. And this is the type, right? So you're going to pass in a value which will be assigned to this identifier, and it's got to be of this type, right? So it's like saying pass in a S string, where the string you pass in gets assigned to S. So maybe that's clear to you, maybe not. This stumps a few people. So we need to use attached to a pointer to a template. We have a method funcs, which takes a func map. And if we look at what a func map is, right? A func map is just a type that's been created, and the underlying type is a map with a key that's a string and a value which is anything, because that's how you say anything, any type in Go, right there. So you think, well, that's self-explanatory. Here's the code that works. So you might say, okay, well, I do my template, and we're commenting out the code that works to put in code which seems logical but does not work. And I'll show you why it's not logical when we're done. So we do TBL and we do template, right? And I know, hey, template must, and then I could use template and parse files or parse glob. And since I'm only doing one, I'm just going to parse files. And so I'm going to do TPL go HTML. And cool, I've got my pointer to a template. When I have my pointer to a template, I could then call TPL, right? Attached to a value of type pointer to a template, we have funcs. Cool. And I could pass in my func map. Right on. And funcs gives me back a pointer to a template, so I reassign it to here. Nice. Should all work. Does it? No, it does not work. It does not work. It blows up. And it says function UC is not defined. UC is not defined. Well, I defined it right here. Why is it not defined? And then you have to look a little bit more closely. TPL go HTML. TPL go HTML. UC is not defined. It's not yet defined. So what happens is, there, that's the one I want. When we parse our template, right? When we parse our files, we parse our template. It's static. This is like compiled, statically checked. Go suffers no fools. You can't use a variable that's not defined, right? Like our areas, this is not defined. That's not defined. And so it's not defined because you have to first tell your pointer to a template, right? You have to tell the program, here are my funcs. So, here are my funcs, and then you have to parse. Those funcs have to be there before you parse. So how do you get those funcs there before you parse, right? Because if we come back and we look at the standard library and we look at text template package, sometimes just getting the right terms is the hardest part about this job. Text template package, to get a pointer to a template so that I could call funcs, I've got these choices. 2 of them I just throw away because these are parsing, and I can't parse until I've attached my funcs if I want to use funcs. So I throw away parse files and parse glob, because if I do that before attaching funcs, it doesn't work. And then over here, must needs a pointer to a template. Well, I don't have a pointer to a template yet, so I have to use func new. And func new takes a string, which is the name of that's going to be assigned to this template. Why is this taking a string right here? So let's go to Golang Playground. I'll show you. Golang Playground. And I am going to template, so TBL, colon equal, template, must, template, new, string, something, whatever you want, right? And then I'm going to close that and close that. So I got a new template, and then I could call parse, which when you have a template, I'm already there on my web browser. When you have a template, pointer to a template, you could call parse, and parse takes text and gives you back a pointer to a template and an error. So that's the one I want, pointer to a template and an error. So done, and parse is going to be off of that. Pointer to a template, so it takes a string and it gives me back a pointer to a template and an error. So now I'm done with that one. So that closed there, that closed there, that, and must is that right there. Sweet. So that's why I want it, and I just have to give it the string. Here is my template, yo. Cool. So now I could do TPL execute, except this isn't going to run here now that I'm realizing this. Execute template, because I need to execute it to os.standard out. And I want to execute my template something, and I want to do nil data. I'm just wondering about, yeah, I'll just take this over to, I was thinking of another way, but that's a rabbit hole. All right, so I'm going to create a new folder, new directory, 026, and this is template new again, because I was just running this example, but I'm going to rework it all for you right here. And then a new directory. Actually, you know what? I've already got all the code right here. So here's that same code I just typed up. And template must, template new, something, parse, here's the text of the template, and then template execute, OS standard out, something, and that. So when I do new, if I'm just using parse, right, I haven't parsed file, I haven't parsed files, I haven't parsed glob. So there isn't like a file with a name that I could then call when I execute template. So template new, since you could just parse in a string, you need a name there so that you could call that. So that's why that new deal is there. And this totally runs. You could go run it in your own time. Just to save time in this video. So here, what we do to recreate this is our TPL is going to be equal to template.must. And then we're going to do template new, and we're not going to give it any name because we're not just going to do parse. And then we attach our funcs before we've parsed our files, right? And then we parse our files, and we give it TPL go HTML. And so that is exactly what we had right on this line. If I comment that out, you can see those match up. Perfect. And so one place also that students get confused, and so I'm just going to explain that in case you happen to be one of the many students out there in the world who do that, is what's going on here, right? And so this is a little chaining. This is what they call chaining. And so template new, what does template new give us? Template new gives us, I could show it right here. Template new gives us back a pointer to a template, okay? I think it's better in standard library. Come over here. So template new gives us back a pointer to a template. With a pointer to a template, we have all of these methods available. So we have right here, this runs, and then we have a value of type pointer to a template, hasn't been assigned to anything yet. And so with the pointer to a template, we could call funcs. And when we call funcs, it gives us back a pointer to a template. So we still have a pointer to a template right here, value, which is a pointer to a template. And when we have a pointer to a template, we could call parse files. And so parse files, right, we run that, and that gives us back a pointer to a template and an error. Well, that's exactly what must takes, a pointer to a template and an error. So we wrap all that in must, and it returns, it executes from the inside out. It returns a pointer to a template and an error, and then that becomes the argument which must takes, and then must executes and gives us back a pointer to a template, and then we're ready to go because we've added in all of our funcs. But we have to do that before it's parsed. So that's where Go suffers no fools. And you have to really sort of think about, you know, how's the computer operating? How's the compiler reading this code? And as it goes through the code and it parses everything, are these available? Because I'm parsing them and you're referencing them, but I can't just leave them hanging, dangling, waiting to hopefully be filled, right? I'm going to make sure that everything checks out. And the compiler's your friend, making sure everything checks out before you deploy. So that's how you use func map to pass in your own functions to templates. In the next video, we'll take a look at some of the predefined global functions which are available for you to use in your templates.